James is having a Smiley Nog Waffle, and I heated up some nog for myself. I'm going to be talking about Resident Alien Season 1 and some of these other ones, and that's the nog we're having. James is going to talk about Jeopardy, it looks like. So, how I made the waffles is I used about half a container of nog for about as much as it takes to make 2 Belgian waffles worth of. So I just substituted the wet for nog, and there you go. It was easy, and I'm sure it'll be delicious. So there's I mean, normally we wouldn't get this, but I got this, what was it, 54 cents a container or something? Because, I mean, after winter, they pretty
cents,
much
but that was the bananas per
oh yeah, 44 cents
but
yeah, for bananas, which was great.
Yeah, that was awesome, too.
Yeah, after Christmas, you can get nog for really cheap. Why not?
Yeah, it's very tasty.
Yeah,
You've generally been putting it on oatmeal, which for a lot of people is a hard sell.
I make the oatmeal. I cook the oatmeal in the nog.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And it is awesome.
Yeah.
Because it really livens up the oatmeal. I like oatmeal anyway, but it livens up the oatmeal because it has, what were you saying? It has cinnamon taste in it?
Nutmeg and stuff.
Nutmeg, there we go. So it's got some spices in it.
So, anyway, Resident Alien, you know I put the movies from best to worst, what I enjoyed the most to what I enjoyed the least. And I'll explain why. I chose this one for the top. Now, yes, it is silly, and there's a lot of humor in it that's, I mean, when you laugh at it, you're like, oh, I can't believe I laughed at it.
Kind of high school or adolescent?
Yeah, and the child actor, well, there's 2 child actors in this, but there's one main one. And honestly, neither one of them are very good, but...
Sorry.
Yeah. But the boy, oh, he's really not a good actor at all. But it's hard to find good child actors, right? And in any case, it was funny. I laughed and laughed. I laughed, you know, sometimes I get laughing and I cackle, and I used to be embarrassed about that, and so I didn't want to laugh around people. But now I just don't care, and plus I'm never around people, around James, but anyway.
Well, I do care, but
cackling.
I actually like it. Because
you like it when I cackle?
Well, yeah. You know what they say, beware a man whose stomach doesn't move when he laughs. Your stomach is moving, you're happy, all that sort of stuff. It's healthy to laugh.
So, deeply. Monk, seasons 1 to 4. I enjoy watching it to a certain point. Like it makes me feel kind of sad because I actually am very familiar with people who have OCD, and a lot of people do. A lot of people are not diagnosed, but since I knew a few people that had it very well, it's kind of obvious for me to figure it out. Anyway, if you know it, you know it. And there were some things in this that bothered me. Basically, they try to say, oh, he's like Superman, and they're trying to make out like they're not laughing at somebody with OCD, but they are. And that's not right. That's not good. But at the same time, the mysteries are okay, and it's entertaining enough. I mean, the 2 police officers that he works with regularly they look like the Swedish Chef and Beaker off the Muppets, so that's kind of funny. And there's a lot of things in here that they didn't get. If you're going to be making a show about people with OCD, you have to be really careful about how you do things. So I didn't bring out a towel to show you, but there's one, it must have been in season 1, I think it was right near the beginning anyway. he washes his hand and he takes a towel to turn off the tap, which that's, people do that, right? But like, I do that. So anyway, if you are in a place where there's taps, and I wouldn't do it at home, but if I'm somewhere else and there's taps, I would use something else to turn off the tap. I would not touch the tap after I'm done washing my hands. And I mean, I went through certain things where I tried, okay, well, what if I wash the taps really well, and then I end up with water everywhere, and then I'm drying it up, and then, so anyway, this is just, it's better this way. So he turns off the tap with a towel, and then he has said towel in his hand, and he dries his hands off with, nobody would do that. Nobody with OCD would ever do that.
Doesn't sound realistic.
No. Because why would you turn off the tap with the towel and then use the towel that has the grossness off the tap, that you don't know what's on that tap, because 100 people may have used that and it may never have been washed, as far as you know. So you wouldn't use that towel to then dry off your hands. What you would do is you would dry off your hands first, then you would use that towel with your clean hands to turn off the tap and throw the towel away. That's what you do. Yeah, that's what you do. And well, in this he's using a cloth towel, but in any case, I don't know how believable that is, because he uses moist towelettes constantly. So it would have been a moist towelette that he would have used, I'm sure, given the character that they're building. So there's a lot of things that they did not pay attention to detail. And the thing about people with OCD, they pay attention to detail. You have to. If you're going to make a show about people with OCD, you're going to have to pay attention to details like that. And honestly, they really didn't. So they kind of blew it that way. Now, mind you, it did win some Emmys or something like that. So anyway, Golden Globe, whatever.
I'm not sure which ones are which. I know what the Oscars are. Emmys and Golden Globes. I think that's for movies as well. Stuff like that. I can't even remember the other ones offhand. Sometimes I can.
Preacher, season 1.
Grammys, that's for.
This one was, it's kind of a sci-fi. It's kind of interesting, actually. And maybe some things about it are a little bit, who knows, but if you're a teenager who's into vampires and stuff like this is actually pretty good. And I didn't like, there was one part when one of the women who's portrayed as, well, African American, but maybe just ish.
More than.
I don't know.
Yeah.
She looks very white.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's a very beautiful woman.
It's not Holly Berry.
No, another woman.
Halle Berry.
But anyway, she says she calls God a racist because he's white, and it's like, whoa, okay, that does not make any sense at all. And I don't know if they were joking with that comment or.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of joking on the square. God is Jewish. And despite what lots of fake left-wingers out there are saying, the Jews are not Europeans. They come from Southwest Asia. The basic would come, the Bible says. I don't really believe that much what the Bible says, but this thing I think is true. It calls Abraham, their ancestor, a wandering Aramean. He would have come from the northern part of what's called the Arabian Peninsula, north of Saudi Arabia.
Okay, so what you are saying about, I see what you're saying, Jesus would have looked like he was from the Middle East. But
He would have looked like Osama bin Laden.
Whether God wants to look that way now is really up to God. God could look like a horseshoe crab.
Exactly right, but that's what they're saying.
But,
is Christianity created God and in their image. So,
Well,
well,
anyway, it's just to call God a racist, because if he chooses to look like some white guy, that doesn't mean he's a racist. It's ridiculous. So anyway, that was something for the times.
newsflash, God's supposed to have created all the races. So how much of a racist is that?
Brooklyn,
And then it's supposed to be in his image, so.
9/9 season 7. Now, I thought this was going to be at the top of my stack. I'd actually watched some of these things first, and I was really, I was saving this one because I really wanted to watch it the most, and I thought, oh, I'm going to laugh so hard, and you know what, I didn't. One thing that they did that I appreciated is they brought the show outside more, so it's not just set in the office, so that's good. But yeah, I was disappointed. We hunt together. I don't know how believable this is, and it's interesting enough. Kind of really creepy mystery.
Is it from Australia or is it from England? Or?
Could be from England, but I don't know.
All the cops in England are women, and the ones who aren't are people of color, according to their TV shows. Come on.
And this one's the bottom. Crime Story. So bad. I really expected more from Richard Dreyfuss. This was terrible. Terrible.
It's fallen on hard times.
And I think this said it was based on a true story or something, but that's really the only thing that's interesting about it. The story seems interesting enough, and honestly, anybody else could have done a better job with it. They needed to really rewrite that story into a more interesting way or something. Like, there's a lot of interest there. It's just they didn't do it right. So
Dreyfuss just was acting in it, or did
Yeah.
he produce it?
Oh, I don't know. But there's the stack, and you can go right ahead and start talking about Jeopardy.
About Alec Trebek. So the late, I think much lamented, Alec Trebek, Canadian origin, he's Slavic, I suspect, in terms of his ancestry. I don't know how many generations his family have been in Canada, but I've known this guy ever since childhood. Though I'm not as old as Methuselah, I'm getting up there, 68, coming on 69. And I can remember Alec Trebek from probably when I was somewhere around 10 years old, so that would have been 1964, the year rock and roll was reinvented. Not exactly, but it started reinventing in 62, at least on the record. But he used to host a show called Reach for the Top. And I think your mom was on Reach for the Top, was she not?
That's what my grandma says.
Okay,
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised. At any rate, it was Canada-wide, I gather. At least maybe they had a French version of Quebec, parts of New Brunswick. But it was a pretty good show. So it was, I guess you would call it it's supposed to be, you might call it a trivia show. But I would prefer to call it a quadrivia show. What is the distinction? Well,
the stuff isn't trivial, right?
Well, it tends not to be. There's trivial kind of stuff, so on and so forth. And I guess, there's trivia on, there's too much trivia on Jeopardy, I would suspect. So, but I always wanted to do either a game show, a board game, or both, called Quadrivial Pursuit. Only want to change Pursuit because Trivial Pursuit folks, I think they came from Canada originally. The people who invented it maybe put it out in the market in 81 or something like that, I remember 40 years ago. They'd probably try to sue. Like, what the heck, Trivia Pursuit is the same. They should have a right to monopolize that name, and if you make a pun on it, Quadrivial Pursuit, That should be your right. But at any rate, the Latins had, I guess, 7 traditional courses in their curriculum. And they divided up into 3 and 4. And via might be closely related to viam, would be a neuter of via, which would be a way. I went via such and such. I went by way of such and such. Basically, what you're saying. And so there's the 3-path part of the curriculum, which is the trivial part, or at least so the Latins saw. And it was pretty trivial. And then there was the quadrivium, which is the 4 remaining paths of the way through the curriculum. And it, I can't remember exactly what all it was. I think it was astronomy, mathematics, maybe music. Music is relatively trivial. I love music, really, but it really doesn't. What was it? You could say about music what W.H. Auden said about poetry. In the end, it changes nothing. Whereas science changes things. And it doesn't necessarily change things for the better, particularly when we're dealing with applications of science, i.e. technology, because but what science gives you is choice. And then better exercise that choice correctly. If you live in a relatively scientific society, political science, like real political science to me, is democracy. It's a different way of talking about political science. The way democracy is like science is the basis of science is experience, but preferably a particular type of experience, controlled experience, called an experiment, a controlled experiment. And democracy should be something like a controlled experiment. In other words, you try something out for a time. The shorter, the better, actually. Maybe shorter than 1 year for a term would be maybe a little short, but it shouldn't be more than 1 year either. Because what happens when folks wait 4 or 5 years between elections? Used to be 7 in France. Like when it came to their national government, the government that's elected just basically just poops and peas on the electorate for 6 years, if it's 7 years, or for 3 years if it's a 4-year cycle. And then all of a sudden, whoa, they get into campaign mode. We'll do everything for you. No, they'll do everything to you. So the Chartists, way back when, it's getting to almost 200 years ago, they say got everything on their platform except one plank. They got the vote for women. They got the vote, at least technically, for the things that we kind of call democracies, for everyone without property qualifications. On and on it goes. Everyone, despite whatever their ethnicity. But there's one thing, the powers that be, doesn't matter if they're capitalists or commies or fake commies or maybe even social democrats, from what I can tell. They weren't that thrilled about it in Sweden or whatever. They don't want yearly elections, because that way the electorate can put their dirty, smelly feet to the fire. You do it or else you're not going to get reelected. Anyway, it's significant when you got Donald Trump, what is it, blue skying it when he's running in 2016. He said, but maybe he said it more than once, let's not ever have another election again. Oh, he's just joking. He's joking on the square. And all these people, not all of them, in this big, not amphitheater, probably was a hockey rink or something like that. They're roaring, yeah, let's never have another election again. Wow, what's the difference between that and Putin? You'd end up with people like Putin. Trump is Putin's poodle, that sort of thing. Anyway.
How was
the book?
Waffle?
The waffle's awesome. I'm going to review the waffle first. It was anything but awful. Awesome.
Okay.
I've eaten a quarter of it and maybe a quarter of the bananas there. I haven't eaten quite that many of the strawberries, but I'm saving
You'll
them.
get
I've actually only eaten an eighth of it because there are 2 waffles. I think I can see
Yeah.
another waffle peeking out
Yeah.
from underneath.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be, I almost lost the banana wheel. It almost
Oh.
rolled. That's how, I think it was banana, something or other. That's how I kept it from rolling down, but I almost spilled your chai or whatever it
that's
is.
what happened there.
Yeah. So,
And the book, Jeopardy.
okay, yeah, reviewing it. So it's got like
Oh,
Jeopardy.
you can play it.
Yeah. It's got little.
That's kind of.
So I'll show you this. I always thought Alec Trebek, even when I was a kid, I thought he was a handsome kind of guy. Brown-eyed handsome man, that's Chuck Berry saying. Although not quite. That brown. Like I said, I figured Trebek. Maybe. I would say maybe Czech or Slovak. Could be wrong. Just a guess. But so it's got a introduction by, I think it's Merv Griffin. I finished this up a long time ago, but big old Merv Griffin. It's got the Jeopardy theme
Oh, that's great. So you can.
Do you see who wrote
you
the
can
Jeopardy
sit
theme?
down on your guitar and
And fall
your
asleep
guitar.
doing it. You see who wrote it, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So music, and I presume there might have been lyrics, but they're not given here. Written by, music by Merv Griffin.
So how did they choose which questions to put in the book? Did they give you any idea of?
I don't know.
They just threw a
I've
bunch in
forgotten
there.
what this was such a long time ago. I read the intro.
okay.
That this one's just been waiting. It could be more than a year. I've been waiting to review it.
Oh.
So introduction by Merv Griffin of all people. So he's the guy who invented the game. Right? I think he actually invented it. I don't think he inherited it. He invented apparently Wheel of Fortune as well.
Interesting.
Maybe 2 of the most successful long-term
Yeah.
game shows ever. They've really opened up the prizes. I don't believe in having high prizes, stuff like that. So they got some pictures. They've got a rather, not the
Yeah, it was
best picture, Merv Griffin.
exciting watching you playing Jeopardy. James knows all the answers.
I'm doing well. Pauline is. I got to be very objective about it. So when
My mom is very good at it too.
when I boast.
I am not good at playing Jeopardy.
When I boast on camera about the stuff I do, keep in mind what I'm saying, what Pauline said. It seems like maybe I know a lot, but what I demand of myself, I don't have a clicker or whatever they call it to respond,
Yeah.
but I demand of myself that I know, at least in my head, know the answer before the person gives it. So I'm actually that's slower than the person who has to, I know the answer, click, all that sort of stuff. Go through, is it worth, I think I know it, do I click, don't I click, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And I'm having a good day when it's 60%. A really good day.
You still have like 4 minutes.
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna put this away.
so it's got actual games here, and then it's got Final Jeopardy. They've got Jeopardy, Double Jeopardy, all this sort of stuff. I won't give away any of the questions and answers, so you don't have to worry about, having to have a spoiler alert. And I think these are maybe qualifying questions for folks if they want to, if they figure they could qualify for Jeopardy. They've got some very, very sharp people. They're very, very quick on the draw, but not too quick. Otherwise, you end up blowing your chance if you buzz too soon before the question's over. So do I recommend this? I got this second hand. There's no way I'd buy it first hand. I don't recommend buying it first hand, but I do recommend maybe getting it second hand and going through and actually seeing how many of these questions. Of course, it's on limited time unless you want to put a timer on yourself or something like that. See how good you really are. I've had people, in work situation, worked with a lot of casuals. About the best worker I ever worked with was a casual, so I don't want to stereotype them. But there are a lot of overly casual folk who work casual, where I was working. And there's more than one. We're going around saying, you only get 60% on Jeopardy? I must get all of them. Wow, you're hiding your stunning knowledge of the world and stuff like that. Even though it's trivia, it tends to be trivia. So on and so forth. Hiding your stunning knowledge of the world. 60%. And on a bad day, I can be flirting below 50%. That's the way it goes. So my brain doesn't work as fast as it used to, but it's still pretty fast. And you give it enough time, it figures a lot of things out. And it knows a fair amount of things. Again, I'm not overrating things. Like Pauline was saying, he knows everything, or all the stuff on Jeopardy I don't. Not even 60%. I'd probably average out to something like 55%. Seems awfully low. That's the way it goes. So, but when I say I know a lot of things, you can put that in your pipe and smoke it. Okay, so I should have read a little bit of the philosophy book while you were gone, but have we got a couple of minutes and maybe want to talk a little bit of politics?
Yep.
All right. Well, this is in politics. Today on Q on CBC, they had Talia Schlenger, I think her name is, or something like that. She's the replacement for Tom Power. And she wasn't interviewing. She was introducing an interview by Tom Power of Marianne Faithfull. And Marianne Faithfull is put out. She just survived barely, apparently, COVID. I don't know how far back. I want to wish her all the best in the world. She's not that much older than me. Is she something like 74? She's not even 10 years older than me. But she's put out an album of her reading, and her voice is not that good. It's been ruined by smoking. She's a smart woman, but she gave up smoking only, apparently, recently. But it's kind of ruined her voice, and I don't think alcohol has helped out too much either. So hearing her read poetry, okay. I'd rather hear someone who has a really good voice, not one that sounds like a crow that's drunk too much turpentine or something like that, or paint peeler. At any rate, maybe that's the same thing. Anyway, she was talking. This stuff tends to be. She was talking about Byron, Shelley, and Keats, and we go, oh, okay. So she's talking about this stuff being fantastic poetry. Byron maybe was. This stuff's not. Keats said, "Load every riff with or." Byron didn't do that, I don't think, ever, and his lyric poetry is sadly lacking. Where he's funny is this kind of epic poetry, mock epic poetry. Byron, or Byron-esque. His Byron-esque hero, Don Juan or Don Juan. And Keats just inverted. He didn't write English. He wrote pretty great poetry. Shelley didn't write great poetry, nor did he write English. Lots of inversion. So just wanted to get that straight. A minute?
Yep.
Right. So Tom Power asked her a relevant question, like it might have seemed irrelevant to her. Like how long will the folks that she was around when she was a young pup, like Mick Jagger, Bob Dylan, so on and so forth, how long would their poetry last? And she said, well, it's almost poetry. You have no clue, Marianne Faithfull. It's more than poetry. It might be bad, but it's more than poetry. She even said, Bob Dylan wrote more than, or almost poetry. No, when he's cooking, it's better than poetry. And she said Leonard Cohen